One and two and a long box punk. Long box punk. Long box punk. Long box punk.
And just like that, we are off and running on another brand new live stream right here on the Long Box Punk. I'm Chris, I'm the punk, and I am joined by David DB Andry on the show. David, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'm
Absolutely.
stoked to talk with you and get into comics and just have a good old chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
For sure. So we're going to get into your newest series coming from Mad Cave, Red Vector, which is available in stores August 27th. Before we get into that series, before we talk about all of the stuff that you have going on currently, which is a lot, based on my light stalking of you on social media, I want to first figure out, like, what's your origin story? Like, how did you get into comics? Where did this all start for you? And how did you start creating?
Yeah, my comic journey, I guess, started like in I'm old, so 1986. I was in sixth grade, and a kid transferred to my school from the Bay Area, and I was in a very, very small school, so we had like 30 kids in my class, and so a new kid showed up, and you're like, wow, I haven't known you since kindergarten. What's up with you? And he had comic books. He brought comic books to school, and he brought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I looked at that comic and I was like, what the heck is this? Because, back in the day, you could see, Spider-Man and Batman and Superman at the spinner racks and stuff. Yeah. But I'd never really seen like an indie comic like that. And it was black and white, and they were turtles, and they had like swords and katanas and sais and all this, and they were killing people. I'm like, this is wild. Yeah. So we had a really awesome comic shop in my town where I grew up, and the owner just let us like hang out. So it's like, as soon as I saw that comic book, I'm like, I got to get into this stuff. And so, TMNT was really my gateway drug into comics. And I think that and then, the 90s explosion was just about to happen, and Image was created. And I think that really like catered my tastes to what I like in comics. Like, I'm always an indie comic fan. I do buy some big too, but it's not as much as like, Image or Boom or Dark Horse or Mad Cave or, Vault and those sort of publishers that you get a little bit more, I don't know, self-contained, unique stories and stuff like that. So, yeah, and then started making comics that summer. My first,
Dang.
Well, when I say making comics, I mean making 3 pages of a single comic book that never got finished. Yes, but me and my friend worked on it every day throughout the summer. We would try to draw, and like, we didn't understand. We were drawing and coloring and doing everything all at the same time, and so that was fun. And then in the 90s, there was a lot of talent contests and stuff, and you could just become a comic writer or illustrator. And I had a friend who was just a tremendous illustrator, and so we started kind of making comics together. And then I entered like Wildstorm script contests and went to conventions and stalked like creators and talked to Mark Silvestri's wife, who was like, that was like the way to get to Mark Silvestri, was like talk to his wife, because his wife is so nice. She's still, I met her since then as an adult, and like super nice. And so like would show her the my friend's portfolio, and she would like take it to him. And so yeah, I tried to break in through the 90s, and then college happened, and you run out of money, and you start getting a real job. And yeah, that's where it all started.
That's awesome. I love that, like, just the dogged determination of doing whatever it takes to try and break in. Like, that's one thing that I miss,
Yeah,
because it feels like now with social media and, everybody has a contact form and all of that stuff. Uh, the like hands and feet on the floor,
right.
trying to get in front of people, like, hey, will you just look at this? Like,
Yeah,
please just take it. It's got all my contact info, like it's got my phone number on it, which is a landline. Like
right.
that feeling
That
isn't the
yeah,
way anymore.
yeah. That was exactly how we did it. And as I'm a fairly introverted person. When
Mhm.
we're talking about like going up and talking to someone for the first time and
Yeah.
stuff like that, I tend to disappear into the background. And you have to force yourself to be an extrovert for that 30 seconds, and you're just dripping sweat and like your hands are shaking and you're like, please look at my stuff. And yeah, yeah, and that's even even through my first published work. I got resonant with Vault from doing a sit down in person pitch. And
That's awesome.
yeah, alcohol was quite helpful. You're sober, that's cool, but I really, really needed just a shot or something to calm the nerves because
Yeah.
man, you're just trying to put everything into that 30-second, 1 minute pitch that you got a chance to get a publisher's attention.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about pressure too. Like that could be a significant shift in like what your life looks like if you get a successful pitch and they say
Right.
yes, and then
Yeah.
from there, like, who knows what doors open. That's what, like, I want to talk all about pitching and
Yeah.
all of that with you. Because you've got, I mean, I know you mentioned Resonant, but that's in works for TV development too. Yeah.
Somewhere, yeah, something's happening. Maybe, Hollywood's a big mysterious jumble that you just toss stuff into, and every once in a while, something spurts back out. So, I mean, that thing's been in development. I think it had Hollywood interest before the first issue came out.
Oh wow.
And so that thing has been around. It's been optioned. It's in development as far as I know, still um, with I believe CBS Studios
Okay.
and Ridley Scott's production company, and BET has a showrunner and has so the showrunner head writer, um, and I believe they have some work done on a pilot script, but yeah, that's creator owned can be not super creator controlled, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
yeah.
you know um so the Vault deal is 50-50, and 50-50 when they have the foot in Hollywood and they have the lawyers and stuff, tends to be more, they'll see if they can make a good deal, and as long as I'm signing off on it, it's and I don't have a better deal to
Mhm.
present to them, which of course I don't, because I'm just a person.
Right.
uh, that's kind of it's a little bit out of my hands. And then of course, as they option it, then they get the rights to do kind of what they want with it. And so your level of control can be pretty varied.
Mm,
As that being my very first series and me being a very new creator with no credits to my name and no like power or juice, that was kind of something where I'm like, okay, this one's kind of the sacrificial lamb,
mm,
to like open some doors, and then maybe I get a little bit more control the next time, and that sort of thing.
yeah. Yeah, that's what, like, that whole process
It's
to
wild,
me
man.
is insane.
Yes. I mean, there's screenwriters that make a very good living on never having anything ever made.
Yeah,
And I think that's opposite of what like comic book people think.
yeah,
Comic book people think I can get every single idea made, and if it's not a publisher, it's self-published, it's kickstarted, it's a web series, it's whatever. So I love making things and having things be done. And it gets kind of depressing writing scripts that are never going to get like developed. And
yeah.
it's the challenge of a writer, because you have to have this material ready to go for pitches and things like that. But it's also like, wow, I'm really writing something no one's ever going to see. This is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I still need to make it good, and it still
Right.
needs to.
I need to level up, and you do that by practice and doing it more and more and more. So, for every one script, that gets published, there's 10 that didn't, or 20 that didn't. But yeah, at least you get to make the ones you really, really, hopefully the ones you really, really love.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, all of that is way beyond anything that I've experienced. And
Yeah.
because, I have like written a comic.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like, I mean, even thinking that makes me feel a little bit better about all of the stuff in my like Google folder that I have of,
Oh, yeah.
ideas and scripts and stuff, where some of them are like super fleshed out and some of them are just like, 2 sentences of, I have to remember this idea.
Yeah.
But thinking about writing those with the intent, first, of practice, second, of maybe this gets made, is a really like, I think that's a good perspective to have, because I've never thought about it like, well, I have to practice. So it's just like you said, I'm making this thing, and because I want it to be a full fleshed out, even if it's just a 4-page short or something.
Yeah.
But thinking about it, like, either way, I'm getting practice in, writing a script, and figuring out what formatting works for me, or what
Yeah.
language for my artist works, or whatever. That's, thinking of it like practice. That's a great tidbit.
And a script is something. A script is just instructions to an artist and a colorist and a letterer. So you really have to get a couple of things made, and you see, oh, I thought it was going to turn out this way, but this is totally different than what I imagined in my head.
Yeah.
And it gets you better at making those descriptions, and better at giving a framework for the artist that you're working with. But yeah, there's no, like, I mean, you can take writing classes, and I'm sure there's, a comic experience, you can take script writing class, but there's not really like a comic book writer degree, right? I can't go to comic book university and apply for a comic book job. So every minute you're practicing it, I look at it as being in school, and it's like, okay, this is my education. This is how I get better. When I decided to, like, okay, I'm going to actually give this a shot, like, as an adult, I said, okay, I'm going to write every single day for a year. I'm not going to think about pitching. I'm not going to think about anything other than doing the work for like a year straight, every single day. And once I developed that discipline, then I said, okay, now I can start working on scripts that I want to develop to pitch to comic book publishers.
Okay.
I didn't want to be the weak link in the chain, where someone's waiting for a script from me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to develop that discipline and that skill, because it is a skill. There's, with everything that you do, there's some level of talent and there's some level of practice and skill, right? Michael Jordan was the best, probably because he was super talented, but also he practiced and worked harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
So I can control that part. I can control how hard I worked and how hard I prepped to start pitching. And I see a lot of indie and start out comic creators taking that first idea, running with that first idea, pitching that first idea. And you really have to have a couple of, bullets in the gun. I always say, if you're going to pitch one thing, you better have 2 more ready to go. Because if they say, oh, we're already doing a zombie cowboy, romance book. And it's like, oh, well, crap, that was my idea. And you don't have anything behind it to say, well, if you don't want that idea, because it might not be a bad idea or a bad concept or a bad execution. It just may be that's not the right book for that publisher at that time. Have that second one ready to go. Have that third one ready to go.
So are those things like in a pitch meeting or in a conversation with the publisher that you can in like immediately juke to, oh, cool. Well, I also have space aliens riding dolphins. Do you want that?
100%.
Like,
You definitely should. You definitely
okay,
should have that backup pitch, because if you're sitting there and you have their attention
yeah,
and they're willing to listen and you don't have anything to show them or to
mm,
talk to them about, that's your missed opportunity. That's the
yeah,
whole luck equals preparation plus opportunity.
yeah,
And you had the opportunity but you weren't prepared. So you don't want to shoot 1,000 ideas at them all at once, and
sure,
you want to have stuff that you really care about and you love and that means a lot to you and that has an emotional core. um, but you should have a couple of things lined up ready to go.
now do those all have to be developed to the same level,
It
or
Yeah, good. It depends on the publisher and it depends on
okay,
your relationship with the publisher. Now, if you're just submitting through the portal, like if Mad Cave has their portal open, Image always has their portal open. Sometimes other publishers will open up submissions for a short period of time. Yeah, it has to be developed to the point that they want that to look.
yeah,
The 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 good thing about, they really say there's no getting into comics. You're constantly breaking in
yeah,
over and over and over again. But you do start to develop relationships, and the pitch doesn't have to be the same for all your editors and
mm,
publishers. Once you have that relationship, once you prove, hey, I can do a book, I can stay on time, it it has some commercial appeal, at least enough for them to come back to you again for a second idea. And that becomes a little bit, the pitch can take on a little bit of a different shape. And
okay,
um, you don't have to have those 6 pages of sequentials. You don't have to have that full pitch document. Sometimes I'm able to pitch without an artist attached and without any work done on it other than my end. But
mm,
my end will always be a good solid pitch document, usually several scripts. I typically don't pitch anything without some scripts written, so I can
okay.
show them exactly where this thing is going because I've already done a ton of work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure this is one of those, like, it depends, with
Right.
everything in comics that I've learned so far is like, there's no one way to do anything.
Right.
I've looked at several pitch documents, not because I'm like planning on pitching to anyone. I'm just curious. Like, I just want to know as much as possible about this thing called comics. And it seems like all of them are slightly formatted differently.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some that are just a single page. It's got maybe a splash image at the top with the title, and then it goes into like a paragraph of the synopsis and then a paragraph about the creators. I've seen some where it has, the setting, the characters, the planned arc, the main beats, plus a couple, tease images, whether they're single panels or like a couple sequential pages. Like, have you seen that there's any sort of standard format for a pitch doc?
Yeah, I mean, not really. Like you said, it's kind of like a comic script, right? You can read 10
Yeah.
different comic scripts and they're formatted differently. So usually the pitch doc, if you're just doing a straight pitch doc for, I'm going to send this off to editors and hopefully one of them will look at it.
Mhm.
You want it to be brief. You want it to be one page. You want to have kind of like a log line, the general plot, the general world, and how the story is going to go.
Okay. Yeah.
Where this is coming from. I like to add some kind of like personal connection to the story.
Mm.
This is what drove me to write this, and this is why I'm a good person to write this, because of this experience I've had in my life.
Yeah.
Because I just think if you have a good personal connection to something, then that adds the emotional impact and resonance, hopefully with readers.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a ton of different ways to do it. You can find samples online. How I like to have, me and Tim Daniel, my co-writer, have kind of developed our own like pitch style.
Mhm.
where we'll do kind of a splash image that he'll create an image that gets the vibe of the comic.
Yeah.
Like for Denizen, our comic that was set in Joshua Tree National Park with these creepy Joshua trees. He had an image of a Joshua tree kind of silhouette with a creepy little monster like peeking out from behind it. Okay, so kind of gets the vibe of the series that we're going for.
Yeah.
And then a one pair, like 3 or 4 sentences of this is the story and this is the genre, and that's it. And so it's something that a publisher editor could read in about 10 seconds, can look at an image and read that. And then if they're interested in that, then we have a 1 page that we send them. That is that a little bit more of just an actual pitch document. And then if they still want to know more, then we'll have a full pitch, which will have issue by issue breakdown, kind of a rougher outline and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like catching their interest first, and then giving them the information, and then giving them the full thing.
Cool. So it's like a step-by-step process rather than a like one-time thing.
Right.
And like one and done, set the hook, you got them, they're on the line, you got them landed. Like it's okay.
Yeah. We can also stick 3 of those or 4 of those pitches in a single email, right? And you got a 10-second read, a 10-second read, a 10-second read. And editors don't have any time. They're editing 10,000 books, and they have a billion emails to answer, and to read. So if you can save them time, and the good thing is me and Tim have a bit of a history of putting out, books. We've, finished series and had, we're not, busting down comic shop doors, but had, enough success that people go, okay, they can make a decent book. And you kind of know what you're going to get, I think, from us if you've read any of our stuff.
Yeah.
So if the idea is pretty good, then they can go, okay, and these guys can execute it. Cool. It's all about kind of building that portfolio and getting the work out there as well. That helps it doesn't make pitching easy, and it doesn't make it automatic, but it does make it a little bit less perilous, I think.
Yeah. Removes the need to take that shot before you go into the
right.
Got it. Yeah. Do you ever is there value in knowing sales numbers for previous titles, like to include with a full pitch document?
I've never thought of it, and a lot of times I don't have access to that information really easily. Some publishers will give you that, some you have to request, and some I've asked for it and I haven't gotten it. So, I mean, if it's really successful, which I unfortunately haven't had that experience yet. Resident did pretty well but there's so much that's timing. There's so much that is the right book at the right time in the current market. It's what we're looking at now is a lot of nostalgia IP, and Marvel and DC are always flooding the market trying to push all the indie stuff out. So it's really hard to get eyeballs on a true indie book.
Yeah.
And even if it gets some good press, very rarely do the numbers justify it being like a blockbuster hit. You'll see that very rarely with stuff that was supposed to stop at 5 issues and they're going to get another 5 issues, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's a good indicator that the sales were pretty good at the beginning. Like with Something Is Killing the Children, that thing just got pushed to 100 issues. And how often have we seen that in the last 5 years in the indie comic space?
Right.
Really, stuff that is not, Spawn or
I was gonna say Spawn, Saga. Walking Dead, Saga.
Yeah. There's not many now. that you could count on them getting good enough numbers that it's viable to continue. Usually unfortunately your sales on number one is going to float the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And then if you lose a little money, then hopefully the back end with the book market, getting stuff into trade is hopefully where the book can kind of live forever. And, the goal is to have this back library that when eventually you do make something super popular, people go and buy your stuff that wasn't super popular,
Yeah, I've been one of those people that I discover one title from a
Right.
creator, and then suddenly I'm like, that was really good. What else have they done? And then I realize, like, oh God, I just signed up for like a 50 book
Right.
thing, and I bought all 50 of them.
Yeah, I mean, I was out of comics through college and after college, so I have a 10-year gap.
Yeah.
In the 90s and through the early aughts. And so like I discovered Brian K. Vaughan, I discovered Robert Kirkman, and I'm like, oh, I got some reading to do. And that's what I would do. I'd go back and buy all of, Brian's older series and read all that stuff. And
yeah.
That's hopefully the hope, is that you can build a legacy and have people discover you later, even if they didn't, they weren't on the singles when they came out.
Yeah, speaking of like the singles versus trades and that market, as someone who a lot of times is a trade waiter for at least the bigger titles, do you find that when you're pitching, it's an easier pitch if you have a succinct plan of like, this is going to be 4 issues, which can full story in that arc, then it can be collected into a trade, and so like, I'm already planning for this self-contained thing, so you're not signing on to like an ongoing, magnum opus 100 thing.
Yeah, you're not pitching those magnum opuses anymore. You're not even pitching them. You're pitching everything as a 3, 4, 5 issue series. I've been lucky enough to get 2 10-issue series, and then Denizen was part of Nightfall double feature from Vault, and those were 4 30-page issues, so that was a little bit longer. But you're pretty much going to be pitching self-contained, if you're smart, 3 to 4 to 5 issue stories. And then, you leave yourself a back door at the end of the last issue in case you want to continue, but it needs to be a contained story. You can have other stories in that universe. You can have other stories that continue on. But you're not going to, I don't know of any publisher right now that would sign, a little or unknown comic creator to an ongoing series. I mean, even James Tynion had to pitch Something is Killing the Children as a limited series, and it's still going to be limited. It's just limited to 100.
It's just a large limit.
It's a large limit. Saga is limited. These things are all, no one's pitching ongoing, other than maybe Robert Kirkman, who can do whatever he wants at Skybound because it's his company, but as far as one of us doing that, it's not going to happen. So if you want to pitch something, have it a 3 or 4 or 5 issue series, self-contained. That way the risk for the publisher is way lower. They're not going to commit to an ongoing series because attrition is a real thing for 99.9% of comics. Your issue 1 is going to sell more than your issue 2. Your issue 2 is going to sell more than your issue 3. And people just drop off. Even I do it all the time with comics that I love. And I'm like, my comic shop forgot to put it in my box. And then it's like, well, shit, now I got to wait for the trade or I'll just pick it up later or something like that. And you forget about it.
Yep.
So yeah, you have to, in this climate, pitch a limited series with a beginning, middle, and end. So if you're developing pitches, that's how they should be developed.
And speaking of limited series, the new series that you have coming out, Red Vector, is through Mad Cave. It's going to be 3 issues.
5
right?
issues.
5 issues. Okay.
Yep.
So let's talk about Red Vector. Like, what's the story? How did this come to be? I want to know all the things.
Red Vector is basically Star Wars crashed on Earth. we have two warring factions, and they're in this giant battle, and the big evil empire type folks open up, fire a weapon that's really a kind of a space ripper, kind of rips space open. It was designed to open portals to other parts of the universe for exploration, but of course, like most things that have a start in something good, it gets twisted into something evil. So they use it just to destroy planets and destroy armadas. There's a collision of two enemy like starfighters. There's an explosion as the weapon is fired, and it opens up this rift to Earth, and these two members of these opposing factions crash on Earth together. And then it's kind of like an enemy mine, void rivals sort of thing, where these two have to work together to see if they can get back off this planet. And they crash towards the U.S. Mexico border, and a park ranger discovers them, Cora, and she kind of helps them get their stuff together.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's a fun sci-fi romp. There's a little bit of little bit of comedy in there, and some fun characters, illustrated by Chris Evenhuse, who's just amazing. Did G.I. Joe for a little while. Did what is it, Monstro? I can't remember the name of that series, but I think it was an Aftershock series, but it was really good. Monstro Mechanica, I think it was called.
Okay.
And he's just like, every page is gorgeous. And for some reason, I don't remember if it was in the script or not, everyone's taking their shirts off. So it's a lot of shirtless men looking sexy, doing sci-fi stuff. So it's fun. Right. Sci-fi is definitely more my wheelhouse and my kind of stuff I like to consume and create. My writing partner Tim is a little bit more on the horror side, so I kind of have to sometimes drag him over my way, and then he drags me over his way. So we've done a lot of horror. We did a End After End, which is a fantasy series, but it was a very dirty, gritty fantasy series. So this is a really fun, clean sci-fi. Just, I don't know, stuff I grew up loving. It's Star Wars, it's Star Trek, it's Last Starfighter, it's all that stuff.
Yeah. How does that work, having, like, with you and Tim creating these comics and these scripts? Like, is it bouncing ideas and dialogue? Is it like, do you both write that stuff simultaneously? What does that look like?
Yeah, our writing process really developed super naturally. Like, we've been friends for 10 years before we started working together. And he's like someone I met when I was volunteering at the Skybound booth. Like, he was he worked for Skybound doing their graphic design, and he does logos, and he still does pretty much all the logos for every comic you'll see on the shelf. And he's just a great, he has a very artistic, mind too. So he really helps us develop the visual language for the comic, which is super important. But the ideas can come from either of us. A lot of times it's something that he has started, and then I'll take and kind of run with a little bit. How we typically work is we'll have long conversations about the characters, what they're, who they are, what their motivations are, why this is happening, what the idea is, what the world building is. We'll just talk it all out for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then once I feel like I have enough to get started, I'll usually start on just what we call a vomit draft. And that's just getting stuff down. And so usually it'll be this happens. But then all the dialogue, because I really love dialogue and I love character, and I feel like that's kind of one of the strengths that I bring to our partnership. And so I'll usually do all the dialogue first, like with the kind of scene breakdowns. And so it's not a script, but it is kind of more than an outline. It'll, for a 22-page script, it'll usually be 10 to 11 page of rough draft. Okay. And the dialogue typically stays through the whole process. And then I'll give it to him. He'll do his pass. lately he's been fleshing it out enough that'll even do suggestions on pages and panels.
Mm.
So it might not be a full script, but it's like this happens on page 1, this is page 2, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then he'll send it back to me, and I'll put it in script form and send it back to him, and we kind of just bounce it back and forth like that until we feel like it's solid. It usually takes a couple of passes, but when you've talked everything out and when you have someone to bounce ideas off, it's just so much easier. And I say it all the time that we both do the parts that the other person doesn't like. So yeah, Tim's like a machine gun of ideas. He's just constantly coming up with ideas, and this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. We're talking about Red Vector, and I'm figuring out like the first couple of scenes, and he's like, and this could be book 3, and this could be book 4, and this could be. I'm like, wait, they just crashed, and then this happens. So I need to plod slowly forward from the beginning and go through the end. I'm kind of a linear thinker like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's more all over the place, which is, it's great. It's again, he has the strength that I don't have, and I feel like I have stuff that is harder for him to do. So we both do the easy parts for us, and things come out nice. So yeah, it's a really fun. It's way less stress. I think it comes from a place of having a good relationship first, and putting the friendship first, and saying, best idea wins, and we're not going to take any of this stuff personally. And if you really believe in something, then we'll go that direction. And we're not going to fight about this stuff. And it's been great. It's been super productive. I feel like you're not carrying the whole weight yourself all the time. You have someone who's on your team, and even if they're just being a cheerleader, man, writing can be lonely. It can be a really lonely experience. And guess what? Your family doesn't care about your comic books. Your friends don't really care about your comic books.
Yeah.
You could ask 100 people to read your script, and none of them are going to read it, and if they do, they're like, yeah, that was good. I didn't really get it, but it was good. So having someone who's going to read your script, give you good feedback, and be wanting to make it the best possible because their name is on it too.
Mm-hmm.
That's worth its weight right there, because it's very, very hard to have that kind of support. And we just tend to row together really well, and it works out. It works out great. I couldn't be happier.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I just wish neither of us had full-time jobs so we could actually get some more work done.
Right?
It's
stupid jobs, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's the worst. If I didn't need all that money.
Stupid money.
Yeah. It's really inconvenient. So, yeah. I mean, he works full-time for Vault. He designs all their books and logos and puts together covers. And so, I mean, the dude works way too much. And then I'm like, hey, have you done that script? And he's like, I had 5 minutes to eat today. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll wait another week.
So did you eat while you looked at that?
Did you look at that script while you were eating? I mean, come on, you need your eyeballs and your mouth at the same time. Come on. So yeah, it's yeah, if neither of us worked, you would see a lot more of our books, well, at least being pitched. I don't know if they get published. We had a lot more stuff to throw at publishers. How about that? Yeah.
That's awesome. So you do the couple passes together. You get the script to a spot where you're super happy with. Do you, when you're pitching, do you pitch and then they match you with an artist? Do you find the artist and then get them on board and then pitch as a full unified front?
Yeah. So let's talk about our 3 books with Mad Cave. We had Morningstar, which we pitched with Marco Finnegan, who's an amazing artist, who Tim and Marco worked on Morningstar 10 years ago. And then it kind of, was one of those things that kind of got picked up and then kind of let go by publishers, which happens, and so Marco stayed on us with the whole project and ended up, being the artist that finished. With Crush Depth and with Red Vector, we pitched those with some idea of an other artist than the one that we ended up with. And because of scheduling, self-selecting themselves out of it. We had different artists that then the publisher said, well, we think these, well, it was actually James Emmett, our editor, who's amazing, would give us a list of a couple of artists, say, well, these people we have a decent relationship with, we think they'd be good on this book. Take a look at them, and you guys kind of figure out which one you want. And when I saw, I've been a Chris Evenhughes fan since the first second I saw his art. So when his name came up, I said, it's Chris. And that was one of the things that me and Tim were like, he's like, I'm not sure. I'm like, trust me, just this is one I'm going to put my foot down on. I want Chris.
Yeah.
And then, Alex, they gave us a list with some other people, and Alex Sanchez was for Crush Depth. And we saw some of his monster work because he had done some work on Godzilla and things like that. And just, we're like, okay, this was a no-brainer for both of us. I mean, this guy is obviously the dude to draw goopy, creepy monsters that we're going to have in the sub bursting out of people's bodies and dripping out of their faces and stuff. So yeah, so it's gone. For my experience, I've pitched with artists, I've pitched without artists. When I pitched Resonant to Vault, I didn't have an artist attached. They gave me a list. When we pitched Denizen, I think we pitched with Chris Sheehan saying yes, he wanted to work on it. I think that's how that went.
Mm-hmm.
I can't 100% remember. When I did Creep Show, I didn't know who the artist was going to be until I saw pages on Instagram.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was Matt Roberts, who I absolutely love, who did Manifest Destiny. But I've met him through Skybound and known him for years. Huge fan of his art, and they teamed us up with him. I'm like, oh hell yeah, I didn't know that was gonna happen. That's awesome. And Tim's like, did you see the pages? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I haven't seen any. I don't even know who the artist is. It's like Matt Roberts. It's on his Instagram. I'm like, holy shit. So yeah, it's comics. It's all over the place. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you can. My idea is the publisher's always going to have a better idea what artists they can work with. And they're always going to have a list of people who are constantly showing them their portfolio. Editors have tons of artists that they would love to work with. I think it's a little silly for me to be the one to pick the artist because I don't know their budget. I don't know their rates for the most part. I don't know their availability. I don't know their speed. Editors who have worked with artists before, they know all this stuff. So I really feel that it's a little, it's still the process. If you pitch to Image, because Image doesn't have a staff to do this, or editors, you got to bring your artists. But I really feel like if you're pitching to another editor, I would want them to pick the artist every time because they have a bigger pool they can pull from. They know these people and they know how they work, and you can really sabotage yourself by having an artist that either falls out or can't keep up with the pace, or their quality drops after issue 2 because they're just not used to working this fast. So I would rather have the publisher give me a list and me pick versus me go out into the wilds of the internet and hunt for an artist and know nothing about them other than what their Instagram looks like or their Twitter looks like or their Blue Sky.
Yeah.
I know that's still not the normal practice, but that would be that's my preference, is that I would like to have an idea what I want it to look like and maybe give them some ideas of artists that I think it would look like, maybe not the ones I think we could afford to work with or are in the budget or even available, but this is what I have as far as what I feel like the visual tone and the visual look of it, because you're not going to get someone super cartoony for something super dark, unless you're like Tony Felice and want to do that on like Feral or something like that, and have that as that juxtaposition as being a powerful part of the story you're telling. you want to have an idea. This is what I want the visuals to look like, but I may not be able to find the right artist for this.
Yeah. That's fascinating too, because I think having never contemplated even pitching to publishers, it always feels like if I'm gonna self-publish something or do whatever, like I gotta find the pieces to make the team to put the
Yeah.
book together. And so that's an interesting difference then with pitching and working with the publishers, having them like, because I have a buddy that is an editor, and we were at a con together, and he had a table, and I was just standing there catching up with him, and he was like, yeah, check out my and like he unlocked his phone, and it was just red dots with commas all over the place. And I was like, dude, how do you live? Like, I would just throw my phone in the fire. How do you do this?
Yeah.
And he was like, I mean, I got to I filter a lot of stuff so that I only see what I need to see. And
I mean, it's not unusual for editors to be doing 20 or 30 books a month.
It's wild.
I'm like, what?
It's so crazy.
That would drive me batty. I'm like, yeah. And then they're, of course, coordinating new projects that haven't even started yet, and coordinating schedules and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, man, just let me sit behind my computer and write. That's all I want to do. All I want to do is sit here, have my headphones on, and just write till my fingers fall off.
Yep. What do you listen to when you're writing?
I have I'm guessing 15 to 16 to maybe even older year Pandora account.
Okay.
I have one channel, and I just add stuff to it as I find songs that I like. So it is anything from, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs to Taylor Swift to, Dashboard Confessional when I was going through a divorce and I needed to be sad.
Yeah.
To like Silver Sun Pickups, and it's everything that I like. I just shove it into one gigantic Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
I think it actually it has started taking people off of my list. I need to go and look, because I'm like, some stuff has stopped playing. But like lately I've been listening to a lot of Lord Huron, and just kind of stuff that it's cool, but it's kind of a little bit more in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But when I am writing, I know there's music playing, but I'm not super aware of it. I kind of get into that flow state.
Yep.
And when it's really going good, I will flip back and I won't remember the last 10 songs. Like if you paid me $1 million, I couldn't tell you what song I had listened to 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Because my brain is just not there. And it's stuff that's familiar, that's not going to pull me out, and that just plays. So I don't like, I know a lot of people like curate playlists, or like, this is the mood of the book, so I want to have all this,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time for that. I'm too lazy. I'll just put on my good old standard Pandora list, and then let it zone out to it, and not really listen to it.
Hey, chaos in a playlist works for some
people.
But
I don't understand people that can write without any music on. That is bananas to me. Or say, I can only listen to stuff without words. I get that. I'm like, okay, you're creating an atmosphere, but to write in silence, that makes me physically uncomfortable. That's like going into someone's house and their toilet paper is on the wrong way. I'm like, that's what you're doing is not
under.
Yeah, you got the kind of you got to
reach under to get the toilet paper.
It's supposed to come out the top.
Yeah,
and it's like that physically makes me uncomfortable to imagine sitting here without any music on and writing. I'm like, that's what a psychopath would do. That's like that's a crazy person. You need to see someone and get help before you cause chaos in this world.
Yeah. See, I'm the instrumental person. If it has lyrics, even if it's, like a Blink-182 song that I've heard a bajillion times, I'm still going to sing every single word to that song in my head. And so then what I find is I start typing like, work sucks. I know this is, damn it. These are, and then like, I'm completely pulled out of the zone. So I just put on like lately it's been like synthwave stuff, like
Okay.
the futuristic
Yeah.
type of feel. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. I for a while was like, oh, if I'm gonna write like this kind of story, I want to listen to this kind of music. And I was trying to do that. But then I found that I was spending too much time trying to find the right
Right.
playlist to write
Right.
to.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just like, I have my like,
That
synthwave.
feels avoidant to me. That
Yeah,
feels like people like waiting for the muse before they write. I'm like, there is no muse. It's
you just gotta
discipline.
start.
You just do it. It's
Yeah.
just, you develop that that discipline, that skill, and you just start writing.
Yep.
Especially, full-time jobs and stuff. You got to write when I'll write on my phone at work. I'll write at lunch breaks. I'll write, I'm reviewing scripts and pages whenever, at a stop sign. I don't care.
3 seconds, I got it.
Right. You got to get that stuff in when you can get it in.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the full-time job too, like, because that's the thing that I struggled with. And I say that like Pat, I'm not still struggling with it, is trying to figure out like just building the discipline of Saturday mornings, I write.
Yeah.
Or Sunday evenings I write, and it doesn't matter if I'm super distracted. It doesn't matter, whatever the hell's going on. Like I really want to
Yeah.
develop that rhythm, because I also have a lot of just personal life chaos happening right now.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
like, I need to have the one consistent thing that I know I can count on every week to like ground me.
Yeah.
And I'm a tactile person. So if I spend an hour at the coffee shop and I write, and at the end of it, I look at my page and I'm like, oh, I wrote 4 sentences. Cool. I wrote 4 sentences,
Right.
instead of
That's
just like,
writing though. That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes writing is staring at the wall. Sometimes writing is walking around the block. Sometimes it's taking a shower because you got to let your brain get distracted by something else. So
Yep.
it can all be writing, but I had to sit and write I don't remember how long that script was, 6 or 7, 8-page script when I had COVID. And like, I could barely hold my head up, and I'm like, well, let me freaking write this thing because it's due today. And
Yeah.
so
you turn on dictate on your phone and you're
yeah,
page 1 panel.
that would have just been all
What?
coughing. It has been, why is this person coughing constantly? That was me.
It's a mood. They're going through the inner turmoil that
Yeah.
represents their
Trying to come out their mouth.
yeah. That's awesome. So I told someone that I would do this, but your best friend Christopher Albright
Jeez.
requested that I ask you where your ideas come from.
Oh, that good old Ian question again. Okay. I don't know. They come from everywhere. I don't understand that question in general, because it could come from, I think writers, I'm going to make assumptions about writers. I think writers are curious people. I think we're curious about the world, and we want to know how things work and why things are the way they are. And you stare at a bird and like, why is that bird doing that thing? And I think we're just naturally curious. And so you start asking questions like, what if this happened? And what if that happened? And, what if I was stuck, in a room with a snake? What would I do? Or what if the world ended and all I had was a hammer and a pack of cigarettes? What would that look like?
Yeah.
You're just a curious. I used to say, I was raised Catholic, and I had to go to church twice a week, and there was no better place to sit and think about other things than when they're doing the same thing every day at church.
Yeah.
And you just come up with ideas constantly. And I listen to music and like songs, and I feel like I want to create something that makes people feel like this music makes people feel. Like I listen like Fleetwood Mac. I'm like, I have a certain feeling when I listen to Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
And when I hear her voice, I can't, my brain doesn't work anymore, but Stevie Nicks, when I hear Stevie Nicks' voice,
Yeah.
it's such a specific sound, and it creates such a specific emotion I'm like, okay, I want to write a book that makes people feel like Fleetwood Mac's music makes me feel, you know, and that could just start something. You know, I want to make something, you know, that makes me feel like this relationship made me feel at this stage in this relationship. Um, I want to explore what it would be like to lose everything and still want to keep going, you know, or to get everything you wanted and then what do you do? So I do a lot of, I think, self exploration to write.
Yeah.
Like what am I afraid of? What am I, you know, what gets me excited? What you know makes me nervous?
Mhm.
What do I want to never have to go through? Or what would be the best thing that could possibly happen? And you know, a lot of ideas will start there, and then okay, how do I make this conceptual thing, how do I represent that with real actions and activities, and what kind of world would be interesting for that stuff to happen in? You know, like Resident was a lot of my fear of being a parent, which I don't have any kids, so obviously that fear was very strong.
Mhm.
And it kind of came from having a special needs younger brother. My parents come to me when I was 17 and saying, "You're going to be responsible for this kid when we die." And when you're 17, your parents are like in their late, I don't know, 30s or early 40s. You're like, "Oh shit, they're going to die like immediately.
Yeah,
They're on
tomorrow. Yeah.
they're on the edge. They're old as shit."
Yeah.
And and so like that one kind of moment with my parents changed my life completely, because it colored every decision I made from that point on for
Mm.
the next 20 years. It's like, okay, I got to get a job that makes money. I got to be financially secure. I have to have space in my life, you know, and things have changed. And, you know, now my brother, you know, it's not a concern anymore. But it really did impact me. So Resonant was and a lot of the things that I write are responsibility thrust on people before they're ready for it.
Mm.
And that concept kind of carries through. And then also, I don't have a close relationship with my family, my blood family, but I do have a close relationship with my friends. And so a lot of stuff that I'll write will be about family and chosen family versus blood family. And you know, luckily Tim has similar issues in his life where, you know, he may not have the closest relationship with some of his family members. So, you know, we have Crush Depth, which had two brothers in it. We have Red Vector that has two brothers in it. We have, you know, Morning Star, that the father disappears, and it's about the mom, you know, having the relationship with her two kids without the father present. And so a lot of the stuff we write is family, and how I've thought about it over the years is know what your tendencies are, and know why you're making these choices, right? When you have a
Mm.
blank page, there's an infinite a number of choices, and there's a reason you're making every single choice.
Yeah.
Choice of the world that they live in, choice of character, choice of relationships between those characters, their actions, what they do. Every single thing is a choice that came from your subconscious. So if you know what your influences are, and then I say lean into them,
Mm.
and really explore that thing that your brain made that choice for you. So that's what we've tried to start to do, is like look at why we're choosing these things, and then really explore those things and get to like some, you know, some pretty painful, sticky spots. You know, the conversations that Tim and I have will be sometimes extremely personal and stuff that I wouldn't really talk about with anybody else.
Yeah.
And we want to get that level of depth and emotional core on the page.
Mm.
And I think for me, that hopefully will be the thing that will let our writing stand the test of time, where people can explore it, you find it in 20 years and it still holds up, even if,
Yeah.
you know, there's different cell phones or different flying cars or whatever shit we have.
Yeah.
But it's that emotional core that I think creates longevity. And I'm hoping, really trying my best to get that on the page as much as possible. So if someone reads it and they go, man, that was good. And maybe they hand it to a friend, say, you should check this out too. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I that's the perfect time for like those are my notes.
Nice.
Like that's such a strong way to lead into I'm not fully done with you. We got two more
Yeah.
things to do, but I love that without saying it, you're talking about the first advice I was ever given about writing comics, and it was write what you know. And so it's like, you know, if it's life or family or, you know, whatever, like work through that on
Yeah.
the page, put your characters through that. And at some point it's like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do this to you.
Yeah.
but you
But I
need to
think,
experience
yeah,
that.
I think people say write what you know, and then people take that literally and say, well, I'm a garbage man, so I guess I got to write a story about a garbage man.
Yeah. Here's a
But
slice of life about a
yes,
garbage
no,
man.
it's writing what you know to be true to yourself, right? It's writing what about things you love, about things that hurt you, about things that emotional journeys you've gone through.
Mhm.
And we've all lost people in our lives. We've all maybe at some point fallen in love. We've all had relationships that didn't work out. We've all been disappointed. We've all been elated. That's write what you know.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be as specific as like, oh, I'm going to get up this morning and go to work, and that's how I'm going to write this story. This person gets up every morning, goes to work. Although that could be your story. You know, some people's lives are very interesting, but we all have emotional experience. We all have fears and things that we've gone through, and that's what you write. You write that knowing is true to yourself, and you have to get into your emotional past and your history and things that you've gone through and delve into that and dig it up and put it on a page. And I think you do that and people connect to that. They, even if they don't understand why they like this more than they liked, hey, this book where a bunch of people punched each other, which is cool too. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I love popcorn. I love popcorn culture. I love popcorn movies. I love popcorn books. But even those, if you dig into the ones that you really love, there's usually something there that's deeper than just what happened on the page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's all about that emotional connection. Like emotions lead stories.
Yep.
And so like let them. And it doesn't matter what they look like, if they have a cape, if they have, you know, a pipe and one of those double hat detective, like, you know, there's always that emotion that underlines and carries the story forward. I am super stoked that we arrived at that. Like it's so much to chew on too and you said something that I just need to call out, like, you know, 40 minutes ago, I don't know, where you said luck is preparation plus opportunity. Like I immediately was like, I have to write this down so I don't forget it, because like that's something for me to chew on, because you always hear like, oh, they just got lucky, oh, the you know, it was the right time for Walking Dead and that's why it blew. Like, nah, there was also a ton of prep that Kirkman put into that that led to that being the story that it became and having the influence that it did on culture. So I just wanted to call that out too.
There's almost always a 10-year history in an overnight success, right? Yeah. And especially if you know, if you're pay attention to the music industry, the one hit wonder or the overnight success band had 10 other bands that they were in before.
Yep.
They failed tons of times, you know. Some people have a leg up in the opportunity part, you know, that is life. You know, some people are, you know, born on third base and think they hit a triple, but you can you can be the preparation part. You can work your ass off and be ready, have that second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth pitch, And there's tons of entry points into comics now, and more than ever before, there's
Mhm.
tons of entry points. You have people that podcast and then become comic book writers. You have, people that review comics and then become comic book writers.
Yep.
There you can just have a great Instagram following and become a comic book artist. There's tons of ways to get your work out there now. Kickstarter wasn't a thing when I started. I self-published for 4 or 5 years, paying out of my pocket to sell one book at a convention all day long.
Yeah.
I spent, I did the math one time, and my first 50 comics that I published, that I printed and I sold out, I was paying people $22.50 to give me $5 for that book. Because that's how much money I had put into creating the art, the lettering, the cover, the printing, the shipping, going to that con.
Yeah.
I'm basically paying you to take this from me by you giving me $5. And it just to say that there's tons of ways to do it now, and I think there's space, hopefully, still for everyone in comics, and we need a ton of different voices. I can only tell stories that are true to myself, and so I am limited in the type of stories that I can tell.
Mm.
And there are things that I've actively taken out of pitches because I feel like I don't have the past, the history, the relevance to write that story.
Mm.
There are things that I've said I won't write about that because that's not my journey to write. And
Yeah.
I want to have as much inclusion and representation in comics as we can, but I can only go so far out of my personal purview. So
Yep.
we need as many people as possible, to be many different people to writing different comics. And I love to see stuff that's unique and different and from a personal point of view. And I think it's important for the health of the industry that we get tons of different voices, and it's not the same 12 white dudes telling stories.
Yeah.
I want to be the 13th white dude, but I can't do anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the more different people we have doing this, I think the cooler it is.
Yeah.
It's like if we go to music, we get different influences from different countries, and man, stuff becomes so cool. You're like, man, that's so much more interesting than what I've seen in the last couple of years. So I just really like to see as many people as possible get into this field, and I hope there's space for everybody here.
Yeah, that's great. And I like any opportunity to mention this. Like, the more creators that are in the ocean of creating comics, and the more exposure and the more strong stories that are told, the more that water's going to rise for them.
Right.
And if their water's rising, guess what? So is mine, so is yours, so
Yep.
is their, like, everybody's boat rises when all of the water rises. And it only really rises well when there's a huge diverse pool of people that are contributing to it. So
people, I might be off a little bit off a tangent here, but I just remember when the new Star Wars episode 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 started to come
Mhm.
out, and I would go to conventions and see so many little girls dressed like Rey.
Yeah.
And thinking back to me in my childhood through the late 70s, 80s, 90s, how many heroic figures were women? How many heroic figures, were people of color?
Mhm.
And you get a movie that has both, and little kids can now dress up like that person that looks like them, and they can see themselves in that world.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for comics and all creative industries. It's like, the more people we can get in that represents me, and that represents my point of view, and that feels like my life that they're writing about. That is super cool. And that's really how we, me as a middle-aged white dude, can get can have my mind opened wider and see what oh man, that was never my experience, but that was a really interesting, powerful experience that you put on this page.
Yeah.
And even if that's through a superhero, even if that's through a zombie apocalypse, you know, that it all can be in there. It all can be part of it. So, and I love that comics has a low barrier of entry. And you know, you can do a zine, you can you can cut and paste images off the internet and make your own Photoshop, comic. We don't need AI for that garbage.
Nope.
You can do it. I'd rather see a stick figure comic that
Same.
has cool writing in it that someone printed out at home. And that stuff shows through. The quality shows through. I've been handed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of zines and comics and self-done stuff at shows, and within a second I can see if someone has put a lot of love and heart into that, or someone's just trying to do the next superhero thing. I have run down people and stopped and brought them back. I'll tell this: Adam Cahoon, who now works for Vault as one of their production artists and does logos and stuff, handed me a comic at Silicon Valley Comic-Con. And I'm like, oh, cool, dude. And he just kind of started walking off, and I started to flip through it and immediately knew, oh, this is something special. I pulled him back. I'm like, you come back here. You come back here. I'm going to know you now. You're going to be my friend now.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is someone who totally cares about it and who put a ton of love into this. And his story was about two grocery clerks and getting revenge on crappy customers because he worked at Trader Joe's and had shitty experiences with shitty people. And it's like, man, that was it can be anything. And that's the cool thing about comics.
That's awesome. Well, I feel like I should have said this before, but with the opening, before we get to the open-ended, here's your time thing, I want to pose and use that as the screenshot for the YouTube thumbnail thing forever. Mm-hmm. And because you mentioned Star Wars and stuff, I would love it if you acted like you were a Sith Lord and I was being choked or controlled by the Force.
I make sure I don't run over my dog's right behind me. I gotta make sure I don't run over my dog. Yeah.
So I will get this shortcut. All right. I'll count us down here and we will go 3, 2, 1. Cool. All right. The other thing is that thing that I mentioned before we came live was, I love doing this show because I get to talk to people that have all different experiences and backgrounds and lifestyles and live in different places than I do and, have lived different lives than I have. And to lean into that, I love just opening up the mic for anybody that comes on the show to share their voice authentically, with some space for whatever. It could be a sales pitch for Red Vector. It could be everything that we just talked about.
I proselytized a little too hard already.
No, I think it's all super valid. And I completely agree. I would much rather read. I've talked to several people at this point that want to be creators and they're like, oh, but I can't do the thing. I'm like, just do stick figures and write the thing. And even if the stick figures are just different colored pencils to marker who characters are, I would read that every day over, someone that, well, I can't create it myself, so I'll just use AI and, have it spit out garbage and slap and nonsense and, use that to get famous. No, you'll use that to get buried by true artists. Because
we all have hobbies and stuff that we waste money on, right? Mm-hmm. We all have something. And my idea at the time was I'm cutting that stuff out because I want to make comics. I won't go to the movies as much. I won't, go out to dinner as much, whatever. There are so many people that love comics and want to be in comics and, and work that way, that you can find people at your level that are trying to do the thing you're doing. It's so much easier now than before the internet My first artist was somebody I had met in person at a con.
Mhm.
Go to local cons, go to, do that stuff. But you can create a comic. It's not that hard. It is challenging as hell.
Yeah.
It can be expensive, and hopefully it's ripping your heart out, but you can make comics. But for my free time, what I just like to say is, every time you go into that comic shop, you're voting with your dollars. You're voting what you want to see more of. And, we all buy those Marvel DC books, but that dollar you spend towards them doesn't mean as much as a dollar you spend towards indie comics. So I'd say pick up one new indie comic a week or a month or every 3 months, whatever your budget allows. I know stuff is expensive. Pick up one indie comic. Maybe wait on that Marvel or DC comic till it comes into a trade. But those dollars that you spend on indie comics, and I'm talking true independent comics, goes a long way to creators like myself getting the next book and getting our voices out there and becoming that next person that is going to write. Hopefully, if you love Superman, you're going to see a creator that you supported while they were coming up get to that position. So use those dollars to vote for creators that you like, for new talent that you want to see grow and get better exposure and position jobs and things like that. But Marvel and DC, I love them too, but they're not going to miss my dollar as much as it's valuable for your Oni book, your Dark Horse, your Bad Cave or Vault book. That dollar is going to go a long way to helping that struggling, new creator to get a foothold in the industry. So be thoughtful when you go buy stuff, and vote with your bucks on stuff that you want to see. And if you complain that there's nothing that you like at a comic shop and they don't make the kind of books you like anymore, that's because you're buying crap that they're going to keep making that crap.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and use that dollar on August 27th to buy Red Vector.
Sure,
and,
why not? I mean, you can. Tomorrow is FOC, so if you want it, you got to put it on your pull list. Ask your comic shop to order it by tomorrow. It's got an A and B cover. The B cover is Megan Hetrick. It's fucking gorgeous.
It's so good.
The interior art by Chris Evanhuse is gorgeous. Sean Wieners. I don't know if it's Chris's partner colors it. They're together in Netherlands or something. I don't know, but they're fucking awesome people and they're super talented. So even if you don't like me as a person, which is totally fine, support cool artists who just, are living on making the art. I'm going to be fine. I got a job. I guess I can keep going to it. I'd rather write all the time, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But support those cool artists and people like that really have to do the hard work of comics. Writing's easy. It's a piece of cake. Anybody can do it.
It's true. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I mean, come on. I mean, I know we have a literacy issue in this country, and our school system's not the best, but practice. If you can't write, talk, dictate into a phone, and make comics. Everybody make comics.
Do the thing and make them, and then after you make them, read them, and after you read them, read more and support more and lift other creators up, because that's how we continue to grow and expand and get more excellent comics out in the world.
I mean, the comic book industry in general there's a lot of money in it right now. Okay, but where is that money being spent? That money's being spent on variant covers, figures, limited issue number ones. We did this in the 90s, guys, and it collapsed the industry. And you don't need that third Spider-Man cover. I promise you can live without it. But that first indie comic that you buy is gonna really help support some cool creators,
Yeah.
Everyone's got their, artists that they love, and sure, buy those cool covers and do that stuff, but save a couple of bucks, because that is actually where the industry needs to spend money to develop the future. We're eating our own tail again, like we did in the 90s with hollow covers. I lived through it.
Mhm.
And it all things, a lot of things went away. A lot of companies and publishers don't exist anymore, and it's happening again. And especially with the changes to Diamond and all that stuff, which
Yeah.
hopefully will lead to a better industry in general.
Yep.
But yeah, there are publishers in trouble out there who you think, oh, they make tons of money, but yeah, spend some money on some indie comics, please.
Yep. Dude, David, this was a super interesting and great conversation. I'm so thanks for just authentically sharing your experiences. I will revisit this so I can take notes.
See how many times I say because I'm trying to say less, and I fucking it snuck out a couple of times, and it's one of those filler words that
I've got them.
I gotta try to cut out. Man, drives me crazy. I thought I was better at this, but
I only learned that I'm not as good as I thought with filler words when I see the transcript. And I'm like, oh, can we not look at the transcript?
Yeah. I mean, I just so I had one for Comic Book Yeti. I talked to Comic Book Jimmy at Comic Book Yeti for Red Vector 2, and just the automatic play thing that was up on Blue Sky, I said like 4 times. I'm like, fuck me. Let me cuss or something more, because this is bullshit.
Right.
That's terrible. I got to get better at that.
Filler words are real.
Tough.
As I say yours, yeah, perfect.
Man,
listen, I don't think I can get any better than we were like 10 minutes ago, so I'm just gonna end this. Hang tight, I got logistics for you afterwards. But for everybody else, thanks for tuning in, watching, listening, whatever you're doing or however you're consuming this. I appreciate it. If you like it, share it, do the thing, like it, subscribe it, turn on the bell. Whatever. I don't know this stuff because I don't usually. I've been told I need to be better at promoting my YouTube.
Turn those notifications on.
So
leave a comment.
That's right. And maybe we'll turn future episodes into drinking games.
Yeah, you'd be fucked up. Oh my God. I would get you so drunk.
So if that's your thing, maybe tune back in. And the best way to find out about future episodes is just subscribe. You can go to the description. It's got a link for all of David's socials. It's got a link for the Mad Cave pre-order link, so you can pre-order Red Vector directly from Mad Cave. And it's got 74 links for me as well.
And Mad Cave, just real quick, Mad Cave started to do this really cool thing where you can buy it digitally. You can pre-order it, you buy them all digitally, and then you get the trade at the end. So you have the physical book at the end, but you also supported the individual issues. So if you like to read digitally, but then you want the trade on the shelf, that's a perfect way to do it.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that and immediately was like, that is such a cool idea.
Yeah.
Because as someone who trade waits, I hate not being able to keep up with the story. And then having people talk about it online, and then suddenly it's ruined. Oh, well, there's the big reveal or whatever. And if you read it digitally and then just that's kind of how
I think their digital might even come out a week before. Like, I think they might even give you early access to the digital. I'm not sure. I think I read that, but I could be making that up. Who knows?
Hey, either way, the only way to find out is to go to the Mad Cave website.
There you go. Do it. Do some research
out for Red Vector. So,
come on, you lazy bastards, just do it.
David, thanks for hanging out with me. What's a good podcast without a good tagline? This one's mine. Go do what's good for you, punks, and read some indie comics, because we are out of here.